Lesson 12 for March 14 to 20, From North and South to the Beautiful Land. Read by Dr. Percy Harrold. Thursday, March 19, Final Events. Question, read Daniel 11, verses 40 to 45. What is happening here? Daniel 11, beginning at verse 40. At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots, horsemen, and with many ships. And he shall enter the countries, overwhelm them, and pass through. He shall also enter the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape from his hand, Edom, Moab, and the prominent people of Ammon. He shall stretch out his hand against the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. He shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. Also the Libyans and Ethiopians shall follow at his heels. But news from the east and the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go out with great fury to destroy and annihilate many. He shall plant the tents of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and no one will help him. The following phrases help us understand this text. Time of the end? The expression time of the end appears only in Daniel. In Daniel 8:17, so he came near where I stood, and when he came I was afraid and fell on my face, but he said to me, Understand, Son of Man, that the vision refers to the time of the end. And chapter 11, verse 35, And some of those of understanding shall fall, to refine them, purify them, and make them white, until the time of the end, because it is still for the appointed time. And same chapter, verse 40, At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him. And chapter 12, verse 4, But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. And verse 9, And he said, Go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Examination of Daniel's prophecies indicate that the time of the end extends from the fall of the papacy in 1798 to the resurrection of the dead in Daniel chapter 12 and verse 2, And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. King of the North? This name first geographically designates the Seleucid dynasty, but then it refers to pagan and finally papal Rome. As such, it does not describe a geographical location, but the spiritual enemy of God's people. In addition, we also should note that the King of the North represents a counterfeit of the true God, who in the Bible is symbolically associated with the North, as we read in Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 13. And Isaiah 14:13 reads, For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, I will also sit on the mount of the congregation, on the farthest sides of the north. King of the South. This name at first designates the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, south of the Holy Land. But as the prophecy unfolds, it acquires a theological dimension, and it is associated by some scholars with atheism. As Ellen G. White commented on the reference to Egypt in Revelation 11 verse 8, says in The Great Controversy, page 269, This is atheism. Revelation 11:8 reads, And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. The glorious holy mountain. In Old Testament times, this expression referred to Zion, the capital and heart of Israel, and geographically located in the Promised Land. After the cross, God's people are no longer defined along ethnic and geographical lines. Therefore, the Holy Mountain must be a symbolic designation of God's people spread throughout the world. So perhaps we can interpret events like this. 1. The King of the South attacks the King of the North. The French Revolution attempted to eradicate religion and defeat the papacy, but failed. 2. The King of the North attacks and defeats the King of the South. The forces of religion, headed by the papacy and its allies, will eventually overcome the forces of atheism and will form a coalition with the defeated enemy. 3. Edom, Moab, and the prominent people of Ammon will escape. Some of those, not counted among God's true people, will join the fold in the last hour. 4. The King of the North prepares to attack the holy mountain, but comes to his end. The forces of evil are destroyed, and God's kingdom is established. So to finish today, how can we draw comfort from knowing that, in the end, God and his people will be victorious? This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind and Hearing Impaired, Christian Record Services for the Blind, the Sabbath School Department, and Hope Channel. You can also listen on the official Sabbath School 4 app and the Apple iTunes app, Sabbath School with Percy Harrold. Remember, God is always faithful.